Welcome to Glow, the podcast that illuminates your path to personal transformation. I'm Jessie Moss, your guide, author, and intuitive healer, here to help you crack wide open and glow from the inside out. I'm so excited that you're here. You are not alone. Let's walk this path together. Welcome to episode 5 of the Glow podcast. In this episode, we will cover connection to ourselves, connection to other people, how to have healthy relationships from that place of connection. We will be covering opening to receive. So not being able to receive can be a massive, massive block to wealth, to relationships, to so many things. And we are going to discuss how having conditions on love and love not being unconditional can also be that block that keeps us from what we truly desire. Today we are coming from this place of what you radiate, you create. This is all about heart energy, heart frequency. And when I picked up my book Open, it actually sums up perfectly, even where we've been in the previous episodes. So in chapter 6, it's called Expanded Heart. And it says, so far, we have unraveled stories of the past, belief systems that no longer serve a higher purpose. We have danced with the mind-body connection and even called our power back. What's next? Past the knowing of your identity and all the things that you have carried which are linked to your external world. It is time to explore connection. Part of this is learning the ability to connect to self and ask, what do I need in this very moment? It is the ability to give yourself the unconditional love you may seek outside of yourself, the self-confidence you may be able to step into or to finally experience the validation that you never received. The point of connection allows you to give to yourself first, unconditionally, and then give outwardly to others. When you are connected to your heart, self, and source, there is a flow present, and there are no limits to what you can receive. However, you must be willing to take the steps towards opening to receive first without conditions, as you are. Easier said than done, right? So that's the start of chapter 6 in my book Open. We're going to bounce off those concepts today as we discuss and feel into perhaps why we've put protective walls around ourselves. There's always a reason for that, and it's not always our fault that we've learned these coping mechanisms and found ways to protect ourselves that, yes, once worked when we were children, but is it working now? Is it serving you now? First, let's feel into how we may actually connect to ourselves. It's a world of busyness, a world of distractions. There's social media, there's, phones. There's all these things that weren't there like that when I was a kid. And I think as the world is changing, connection becomes more and more important. So the connection inward that I'm talking about, and this stems off episode 4, calling your power back, is to recognize that self, the self that you are in this very present moment. The self that is making self-led choices, heart-led choices from a place of wanting better or being a healthier version. The self that is always evolving, but the self that you are now. So when we blend with other parts that may not feel worthy to receive in this case, then we may self-sabotage, we may procrastinate, we may push people away. There could be all these behaviors that we do that really block the flow of us receiving. And even just holding a lack mentality or beliefs around nothing ever works out for me, I'll never have enough money, people never choose me, whatever it is that's in lack, we want to turn our attention to those places today and start to explore why the walls were there in the first place, and if there are things we can do to soften or to start to peel those walls away. I love at the end of teaching yoga sometimes, if it's a practice just really that I focus around that heart energy, and where people actually get emotional because they're connecting to that part of themselves that maybe they haven't connected to for weeks or months or years. And you just find yourself in this place all of a sudden where it hits you, and you feel that connection to what your true self is. And I have so many examples of seeing this, but I want to tell you a story about myself, a personal one, where it was about 5 years ago, and I went over to Peru. I knew that I needed a radical shift in my life, and I was so traumatized. I tried everything. I tried everything for about 5 years, and I couldn't get out of my slump. I couldn't stop drinking alcohol to numb things, to get away from my reality. There just was so many things that was still going on, and I was really struggling to work, raise kids, and do all of this stuff on my own. It was a highly traumatizing time, and after being diagnosed properly with CPTSD, it was kind of an awakening for me that I needed to do something that was beyond the therapy that I was seeking. I needed to make a big impact on myself, and I felt like I needed it quickly because I just was drowning. I was drowning into just this darkness, and I could not get myself out. And the environment that I was in at the time definitely didn't help me to really connect to myself, to heal, because I had to work so much. I had to always be showing up for my kids. I very rarely got a break. And so all of this was compounding over years and years and years and years. And then all my traumas coming up because I'm starting to work on myself and choose different and do all of that on a whole new level than what I had ever before. I remember seeing this documentary on people in the jungle, in the Amazon jungle in Peru. And I knew in my heart that I needed to go there. And my kids were small at this point in time. And so, Zoom fast forward 5 years later, I have a friend that's over there and actually encourages me to meet her over there. And I remember having this moment of not having enough money, having all the reasons why I can't go. It's a month is too long to be away from my kids. I've never even gone that far away from them before. And for that period of time, I don't know if anyone's going to support me in doing this. I don't know if I have help with the kids. All this stuff was coming up for me, and I just asked something greater than myself. If I am supposed to be there, I need you to get me there. And within 6 weeks, I had enough money. I had my mum who was willing to come to my house for a whole month, and she lives in another state, and everything fell into place. I was met with just this beautiful group of humans that were on the same journey as me, some clearing addictions, some just very highly traumatized from huge events that happened in the world. I just couldn't believe the people I met and the things that they had been through. And at some points throughout that my time there, I realized that it was big to me what happened to me, but it was also very common. And some people had it a lot worse than what I did. And so it humbled me. It humbled me. And the practices that we went into over there, I learned so much about myself and connecting with myself. And when we first got there, everyone sat in a circle and they said, let's all discuss our intentions for being here. And I said, I don't really know why I'm here. I just felt I needed to be. And maybe my intention will come as I go. And it definitely did. I had this experience where I met the Shipibo people, who are, the most beautiful, grounded shamans, and the jungle there is just so noisy at nighttime. I was very overwhelmed by just the beauty of all of it, let alone the practices we were doing. And I found on the second night that sense of being able to finally forgive myself. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't even know that I needed to do that. I was so busy doing radical forgiveness processes for everyone else that had brought me to a place of feeling unworthy, for being codependent, all those things. And I had never once before then, the age of 33, looked inward toward myself and connected to that part of myself and bring in forgiveness towards myself. And this forgiveness I needed because I had made choices to be in an abusive relationship. So when I knew the abuse was getting worse, I stayed. I had shame around that. I blamed myself for that. And I put my kids through that as well. My point being, I came to this place of complete stillness, complete forgiveness, and love, just love towards myself for everything that I'd been through, compassion towards myself. And when I think about this episode, it's that energy that I feel like I'm encapsulated in, and what I'm trying to embody and to come across and to help others to connect them to that place within themselves. It's really interesting today. There are so many distractions going on as I'm recording this. There's people doing work outside in the street, and my son waking up and opening doors. I don't know if maybe I'll have to edit this episode a lot, but this just also comes into this letting it ebb and flow. There's times where I can get so frustrated and so caught up on how hard things are, how much things aren't flowing, and how challenging things can be. And heart energy, in this instance, I'm kind of having this real lived experience of it right now, is just letting it all be what it is, and without trying to control it, just to be unconditional to, and even being grateful to actually still sitting here with a device to record and just to be able to speak from my heart. So we talk about opening to receive. And if someone had told me before that moment when I was in the middle of the jungle, in the dark, having that experience, doing something that just completely terrifies me, if anyone had told me before then, just forgive yourself, I wouldn't have had any clue to what they were talking about. I would not have even known how to do that, or that I needed it. So it's always in that divine sense of order where it'll come when it's meant to come. It's like getting out of an abusive relationship. Many people might try and warn you or tell you, or not like that person that you're with, but until you're ready to truly see it and to own that part of it, it won't actually eventuate into anything until that aspect of divine timing has come into it. And we will go into divine timing in the later episodes as well. I want to come into this concept of what you radiate, you create. So we think about energy centers, and we're moving up the energy centers through these episodes, even though I don't bring that context into it very often. And it's not like spiritually written through my book either, that we're working on our energy centers as we go. It's just like a map that I follow, because the way that these episodes are ordered is in a pattern or a current of liberation. So we unpeel one thing at a time as we travel upwards. So when we finally are able to break away from that tribal mentality, to understand what our relationship is to the external world, and perhaps what the relationship to the external world is actually showing us, and to break away, to really be our true self, to speak our truth, to feel worthy, to be in our power fully, or learn to be in our power, then the next step is to be in the heart. So the heart, in the term of energy centers, is the bridge. So everything that we've spoken about up until now has been in the external world. So there is an external world, and there's the heart, which is the bridge to the inner world. And so the next few episodes stemming on from here will be all about the inner world. So more to do with divine timing, with source consciousness, with meditation, with intuition. So if you think about the heart being this energy center that has a frequency of its own, and if you're holding heartache, suffering, lack mentality, and that's sitting there in that space, it's radiating out and it's providing back to you, like the law of attraction, it's providing back to you everything that you believe. Our thoughts are super powerful. So when we're changing our belief systems, when we're working with mantras, things like that, like even it is safe for me to now receive, even just working with that, if it hasn't been safe to receive, or we start to find out what the blocks are around this, what the external world is showing you is a signal to what your belief system may be and to what energy you're holding and radiating out into the world, because it's coming back. It's ricocheting back and reflecting back to you what you are holding from within yourself. So if you're not happy with the way that things are, this is a beautiful time to start to question why and what is in my external that I really want to change. And then we start to look at all the things that we know first. We can start to look at relationships. What is the common theme that shows up in why your relationships don't work? What is the common behavior thread that you do around support or receiving? Where do you feel lack in your life? And do you know where that comes from? Did your parents have money blocks? Were you raised by a single parent that was in survival mode? I feel like sometimes if we can understand the why and allow ourselves to be gentle and a little bit more compassionate with ourselves, that we can start to peel back those walls that may have at one point in time played a role that was really important to our survival. But it's recognizing that things have changed, that time has gone on, and that perhaps there's no reason for those walls to be there anymore, and that we can start to peel them back. When I think about the whole concept of receiving, giving, receiving, if we think of it in a context of love, if you are giving anything in a way that you're expecting something back, it is conditional. It is a conditional giving. So if you will pick a partner, for example, and they have to be this way or that way, and there's a few things you don't like, so you kind of, that's okay, I can change that. That is a conditional relationship. If you can't accept someone as they are and love them unconditionally, there are conditions in there, then there is a definite block that you may have in receiving. And this is not an episode to highlight all the things you're doing wrong. Perhaps this understanding can come in where you know that it's not your fault to why you do these things. But when you do have awareness to it, then it's on you to change that. It's on you to take accountability for that. And so in a way where people learn to control everything, to control your surroundings, to control the people that you love, to be a certain way, that because it suits you, it makes you feel safe, or it meets some kind of need, then it's conditional. To move from a place of conditional, I find, especially relating to this heart energy, is acceptance. Acceptance of your parents doing the best job that they knew how, even if you don't think it was a good job. Acceptance of every human being on this planet having flaws and nobody being perfect. And linking back to my story about me being in Peru, start to turn this inward. So a good question could be, where am I being conditional with myself? If I'm good, if I do A, B, and C, then I can have this. I can reward myself when I do these things, or I can, if I'm a good partner, if I'm meeting my partner's needs all the time, whatever it is, then I'm worthy of having that love back, or then it can be even. Whatever these beliefs are, there's so many in there. I'm just naming some off the top of my head. but it can definitely highlight where we're being conditional with ourselves. And when we're conditional with ourselves, we're blocking ourselves from receiving. This also means that we are not receiving abundance, support, all of this stuff from the universe, source consciousness, source energy, God, whatever you want to call it. It means that we're also blocked off to that. So if the heart is blocked, if there's walls around there and we're not really letting much out, or we're letting it out, but it's conditional, we only open so far. We can only give so much before perhaps we're triggered, or before we point the finger of, I've given you all of this, and we're kind of keeping score, all of that. Then those walls also mean that not much can come in. And so allow this episode to just shine light on any places that might feel a little bit constricted in that heart space, even that posture of shoulders really curling forward and protecting the heart. It might feel nice to sit up and take a few nice deep breaths up into the chest and see if you can open that space, see what is kind of sitting in there for you to recognize as we're talking about this. So coming back to that bridge of connection, the heart, and when we talk about energy centers, if you want to dive a little deeper into that, I've got an 8-week journey through the energy centers that takes you 1 week at a time through each center, where we get to liberate and peel back a little bit more than what I'm talking about in this podcast. So if you want to look at that, go to jessiemoss.com, or I'll leave a little discounted link in the show notes. The bridge, the heart, the thing that moves you from the internal world to the external world to the internal world. It's important that this space is open and clear, and that can be a whole lifetime of unraveling. And this is why my book is called Open, and it's why I actually have this snake tattoo on my heart, on my chest. This is a book that is designed to bring you back to yourself, to allow you to find that connection again and to open. A part of this whole journey is self-love. And I don't say self-forgiveness and self-love and all this heart stuff. I'm not talking about this from a fluffy perspective, or a perspective where I'm encouraging you to bypass anything. Sure, sometimes it's not safe to be in our body and feel, and life is not about being and feeling all the time. I want to unravel what feels healthy. Does it feel healthy the way that you love? Does it feel healthy the way that you show up for people? Does it feel healthy in a way that you're giving? Are you giving to receive something back? Do you have expectations on anything that you give? Do you feel uncomfortable when someone insists that you receive something, even down to small things like receiving a compliment? Not everyone can even receive a compliment. So that can be a really amazing place to start, when somebody compliments you, even though it's uncomfortable, to say thank you. To know from this heart space that all parts of you belong. That is the concept of self-love. The self-love that I'm talking about is the self-love that brings you into making healthy choices for yourself, the place where you really know yourself. And the more you connect here, even after you've had really shitty relationships time and time again, whatever you've been going through, whatever hurts your heart, the abandonment wounds that you carry, always coming back to that place where you've got yourself. You've got that connection with yourself, and you dig into that resilience. So a lot of people in the spiritual community will be talking about a lot love and light. It's all love and light. We're all one. We're all connected. I do believe that we are all connected. I do believe that everything is energy. There are certain beliefs that I have, but the way that, if you think about the heart being the bridge, if we're bypassing all these walls around our heart and we're expecting just to live in the inner world, which is that love and light space, and we're not bringing things down, we will be having trouble manifesting and embodying what we're actually learning. So this is why I talk about the energy centers, because we want a current flowing upwards to liberate ourselves, and we also want a current moving downwards. So the heart, the center of you, the heart space, is the part that connects everything. And I can't reiterate that enough. So in the book Open, I encourage people to live lighter moments. So the heart energy is about joy, it's about play. And if you've been a hypervigilant kid, if you've had to learn to survive in certain ways and feel into how everyone's feeling, if you're one of those empaths that just walk in a room and you can feel everything out within a few seconds, if you're sensitive to energy like that, you perhaps had to learn those skills as a kid, or you've always had them. And without people around you that can teach you how to navigate that from a young age, it can definitely create all these walls around the heart, around receiving, because perhaps you've been in such a giving role, a fixing role. And so think about the energy of compassion, to play, to feel joy, to have compassion. It all feels like they're all quite nice. They're all quite nice kind of energies. They're nice vibrations. But if you think about compassion in a way where you're just compassionate for everybody, it's all love and light. It's a little bit bypassy in that sense. But if you think of compassion in a way of, I have firstly this compassion for myself, and that spills out, I radiate that out for other people. And so to be compassionate with myself means that I need to stop enabling behaviors that aren't in alignment to my value system, that I can no longer be in situations where I don't feel good or where I'm expected to give past my capacity, or I don't enable myself to be a people pleaser anymore. All of that is self-compassion. Self-compassion can feel fluffy at first, or depending on what version that you've heard from who, but compassion is like so strong. It's such a trait of a resilient person. It's a trait of a person that can travel through life, through hard challenges with grace, and find joy when everything is going wrong, to find play even when it feels uncomfortable and you stopped playing when you were 12 and it feels hard to play, where you keep trying to play anyway. It's knowing all of those places, perhaps when you were younger, all the times that you reached out with love and it was rejected, whether by caretakers, parents, grandparents, friends, partners as you got a little bit older. Anytime that you were reaching out with love, or any kind of belief around love being conditional, it's so important to address that, because that then starts to clear up all those blocks around receiving what it is you actually desire, and to allow yourself to have a life of support by something that is much bigger than just this realm that we're living in. So in this energy, after everything that we've discussed through this episode, I want to really bring your attention to pain. If we think about pain being a teacher, I love thinking about pain being a teacher, because I just feel like, why else would pain be there? Pain is, I believe, and I feel when I experience pain, it's always showing me something. It's showing me myself a little deeper. How do I navigate through that pain? How can I let that pain open me up? Can this pain that I'm feeling be inspiration to open my heart a little deeper? And every time I've chosen that, the most beautiful things have landed in my life. But first, I had to really unravel, why is love conditional? Why can I only open so much to people? Why does it not feel safe to open anymore? Why do I open and close and open and close? And what is my nervous system doing when all of that is happening? How do I reach out with love in all these different ways that's not in a way of it being conditional anymore? Because if I believe love to be conditional, I can only give it to certain amounts. So the practice of being in the heart is to actually give when you feel you can, when you've got capacity from a place that is completely unconditional. And that means first to be unconditional with self, to be self-forgiving, to be self-compassionate, which doesn't always mean to just go easy on yourself. It means to hold yourself to certain integrity. It means to hold yourself to a certain way that you won't enable yourself to place more, to go back to feeling unworthy, all those things, to keep reminding yourself and to dig into that resilience. So the heart energy, to me, is not a fluffy place to learn at all, but it is very important because it is the bridge that allows everything to liberate and manifest in our life. So as I wrap up here today, I want to encourage you to think about self-care as an act of self-love, of self-connection. What is something that you can do to care for yourself in the next week or in the next few days and commit to this fully? It doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to be a huge, big thing. It could be 5 minutes and putting on a meditation, something like that. It could just be taking 5 nice deep breaths, or it could be laying on the earth and just feeling supported by the elements. Anything that you need, I encourage you to tap into that and actually to follow through and give it to yourself this week. Make an act of self-care a way of being completely unconditional with yourself, and feel what arises if there's resistance to doing it, whether there's resistance to receiving, and just be with that. See what comes, write it down. So that's my integration encouragement for the next week. If you can do that, that would be so amazing for yourself. One thing that I really, really want to encourage, and it is part of my why, is to help people not feel alone when they're traveling through their healing journey. So if you know anyone that is going through something, needs a bit of support, please offer this free resource to them and share the love, share this Glow podcast with them, and talk about it. Talk about it with people that, if you can encourage them to be listening with you, have some time where you can sit down, have a cuppa and discuss what was said in there. Talk about what comes up for you and let them talk about what comes up for them. And we can start to create this community of just safe communication, safe connection. And if you don't have that available, your journal is always there, and write things down, because anytime we journal something, anytime we write it down, we're helping to rewire our brain. And that is something so important when we're talking about changing our belief systems. So I hope that today's episode has connected you to the heart. Please rate, review, or give me some feedback of anything you want me to go deeper on. I'm so happy to take it on board and to try to be more specific into season 2. So all the feedback that I'm receiving, I will gather it and I'll bring it into season 2. But until then, so much love from my heart, unconditionally, as you are, as I am. Have a very beautiful day.